Check, check, check.
Check, check. Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're just about to get started with this week's episode. Less than 10 minutes left. While you got a couple of minutes here, why don't you go check out otheanthem.com. It's where you can find everything Oh The Anthem, including the merch store, the podcast, and all of the videos. Open up a new tab.
Anchor.fm/Oh The Anthem is the place where you can get direct links to all the podcatchers you use to listen to our show every week.
Did you know we record every episode live on Facebook? Of course you do. But make sure that you're liking the page and turning on notifications so you get notified when we go live.
We make a ton of video content between the podcast, the short films, Heretics. YouTube.com/Oh The Anthem is the place for it all.
And of course you can find me on any social network at Robert N. Chief.
And me at LegendCB5.
And you can find the podcast at Oh The Anthem on all your social networks.
Last week, we introduced Oh the Anthem 365. This week, Oh the Anthem 365 version 2.0. This is Corey, and this is the Oh the Anthem podcast.
I mean, I prefer 365 part 2, but that's because I had class. Welcome to episode 365 again of the Oh the Anthem podcast, coming to you from hashtag OTA LA Studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and if you've been with us for any amount of time, you know anchor.fm/Oh the Anthem is the place you can go to find the audio version on whatever platform you choose to listen to it.
And of course, if you're watching us live, it's Monday nights, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're live everywhere, and you can be a part of the show on our Discord. Make sure you join us there. The link is available on social media, so make sure you check that out. No producer Roberto today because what is it that little accent you used to do from like Louisiana?
He got himself a case of the terribles.
There you go. You got a case of the terribles, and so he won't be joining us today. And
I do believe I've come down with a case of the vapors.
And we tried to get producer Brooks to do the show, but he said, "Listen, when you take a step down from the A-Leagues, you don't get to step back up." So, unfortunately, you have to deal with me.
I'm producing a new podcast, he says.
It's the Barkcast.
The shit about poop.
Wait. He's doing some sort of taste testing podcast? I wasn't aware. Yeah, good for him.
Fucking puppies.
He's cute.
He's
fine.
He's learning. So the joke up front, obviously, last week, if you listened, there was a mix-up, and we said that it was episode 365, when in fact this is episode 365.
Well,
but
let's just be clear. Wait, which politician said that? Let me be clear. It wasn't a mix-up on our part.
I did not have sex with.
Is that what it was?
Sexual relations with that woman?
Possibly. So what had happened was we changed the titles of the episode. I changed the titles of the episode, and then our illustrious producer said, "Oh no, they didn't save." And I looked down and saw it said 364, and I was like, "Oh, we don't have time. Let's go. We're going live right now." So then in my mind, I was like, if it didn't save, this must be 365. But what happened was it did save, and last week was 364, and apparently it was correct on the live stream because it said 364 on the live stream, which was the correct episode. I just thought that was incorrect because our producers are top notch.
Wow, nothing like having a producer to throw under the bus whenever there's a problem with
That's why
this.
I keep inviting him to be a producer. What other reason do you have to have a producer? I don't know.
Speaking of interesting things that can be found on the interwebs, the QAnon doc, Q Into the Storm, just had its final episode last night. We didn't want to talk about it really until we reached the dramatic conclusion.
Corey's always afraid of the hot takes.
It's not that I'm afraid of the hot takes. I
bet Steve Bannon's Q.
And like 6 or 7 hours before the premiere of the final episode, Ron and Jim Watkins were on some sort of live stream, some sort of podcast or something like that, and they were speculating who they think they'll be outed as Q. Which is part of the maybe if you don't wade into the hot takes too much, then you don't. But here's a hot take: QAnon is stupid.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Anybody who thought that this was like a real fucking thing needs to seriously examine how they come about the takes that they do. I don't know. Like
much unlike the Neo Jayhawks, which, as I continue to say, are a real thing. And you can join us on our tirade, our crusade, if you will, of terror through the Midwest and the South. Just reach out, Corey@OTheAnthem.com.
No,
and
absolutely
you can join
not.
Us.
It's not.
It'll be totally fine.
I am not related to this, whatever it is. I don't even want to know.
You know, it's the.
I don't want to know about this new University of Kansas men's basketball team. I'd prefer to be on the outside.
So here's the funny thing, and the people who go to Kansas
So
don't know
Q
this.
Into the Storm is on HBO Max. 5 episodes available now to watch.
6 episodes.
Is it 6?
Yeah, it's 6.
I thought it was 5. Oh,
no,
well.
because remember, you didn't watch 2, and then we watched 2, and you're like, oh, there's another one. Oh, wait, there's another one, because they dropped 2, 2, and 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess so. But fascinating stuff from the outer reaches of the internet, I guess. It's I still maintain with all these documentaries though that it could be half as long and still be as enjoyable. I think.
Well, I think the problem, not the problem, but HBO is part of Time Warner, yes, and they're just looking for content. And if you tell them I have a 3-hour documentary, there's somebody who's like, "Would you give us 4 hours for the same price?" And you're like, I mean, I have 90 hours of footage. I could cut together something.
I guess I could put together a sizzle, or I could put together a director's cut or something.
I have all of this footage about a guy escaping Manila. It has nothing to do with the actual story, but we could make up basically a whole episode just that.
HBO Max executives open up the door. They're like, "Do you think you can make this?" It's like, "Nope, Zack Snyder, I already know."
Well, I mean, they
4 hours, say no more.
They went to Snyder and they were just like, "Listen, we have a 4.5 hour stretch that we really need to fill in our schedule." And he was like, "I can make a couple cuts and I can get it down. I think probably to that time frame." But listen, yes, if you're looking for insight into why somebody would fall into the cult that is QAnon, I don't think this is the documentary that's going to explain that. This is not the Scientology documentary that, like, Leah Remini going through. I see almost from her perspective of like, oh, so like your parents were in it. And much like you and I grew up in religious households, it's like, as much as I maintain my belief that I am an atheist and my belief that there is no God, I do at times have that pang of like, but what if I'm wrong? All evidence aside, what if I'm wrong?
You get up to the pearly gates and you're just like, oh, wow.
Well, shit. But, you know, then
law degree don't fail me now.
Well, I mean, lucky for me, it'll be Mitt Romney standing at the gate, and I'll be like, well, I was fucked either way, so it didn't really matter.
Turns out the correct answer was Mormons.
Mormons. Sorry, everybody else. Or, you know, one of the other 1,500 religions that are currently available, or the thousands, or Zeus is standing at the gate. And I'm like, whew, way off on that one. Way off on that one.
We gave up too early on that one.
But like, if you're looking for insight into how do people fall into it, that's not what this is about. It's about how it developed, and it's the psyop. So if you could hang out with L. Ron Hubbard and see like what brought him to the point of writing Dianetics, and like, I bet you I could hustle a lot of fucking people with this. Yeah. And then he does it, and you're watching him along the way. It's not maybe with him. Maybe if you were, if you lived in.
I mean, I think that's a pretty fair example. I think because it's more of the back end of how something like QAnon is allowed to grow, as opposed to what is Q per se.
If you were coding it.
Yeah.
As if you were coding.
As you're some sort of code monkey! Exclamation point. I would have personally enjoyed a little bit more going into the depths about the Q nonsense, because I feel like there's more interesting parts of that story that were left unexamined.
Yeah.
But I can see how they got to the place they did with the documentary, and where they focused more on the people who are allowing this to come into being and who might be behind it, as opposed to what's being spouted, because saying anything that Q believes sort of gives credence to it in a way.
Yeah.
So like they sort of did it a little bit with the Pizzagate, and like how that led up to, you know, like people showing up with guns. But
they
like
focused on the people showing up with guns, and like this is what happened. Not like here are the 9 drops that led people to believe that. It was really like, so Q said some stuff, and then pizza place, and somebody showed up. But I'm always concerned about false equivalency. Like CNN has.
I mean, I guess. Sorry, just to cut it back real quick. I think the point to me is that, like, if you're watching this and you have zero clue what QAnon is and never heard a story or anything like that,
don't watch it.
I don't imagine you get to January 6th and you're not like in the mind of a person who's, you know, like in siege of the Capitol. Like,
I don't know that you get to the finale and you know any more than you did before, because I think you have to have a base knowledge of what QAnon is to even follow the story.
Yeah.
You really need to come, and I didn't watch 1 in its fullness because I already came in, and once they started talking about it, I was like, tune out a bit and do other stuff. So maybe there was stuff in 1 that would give you a better base to get into it. But I really kind of watched hard from 2 on, and having a base understanding, I feel like I was there. But what we talked about before is the false equivalency. CNN says we have 2 fantastic directors on. Quentin Tarantino is here to talk about his views from the left. And then we also have Corey Baker here, who's going to be talking about his views from the right. And it's like, yes, they're both directors. And yes, they both have had fantastic work. But
I like that you use the term both.
But one of those people can talk about, starting out doing 8mm films, and then, I'm going to make what I want to make, and if people are going to like it, they're going to like it. I'm going to keep pushing until I have a blockbuster movie with Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio playing opposite each other. And the other guy had me doing sound for one of his films. So not exactly the same thing. Now, could they both have valid opinions? Absolutely. Is there a chance that one of these guys is pulling shit out of his ass? Yes.
Yeah.
But if I put you there side by side,
then it looks like
you look like you're equivalent to each other, and you're not. And that's why I don't like the I want to learn about the crazy QAnon shit that was so far that I didn't even know. Like, I didn't even get into the depths of well, listen, if you look at drop 13 and 17 and 9, and you just overlay them, the letters that do line up in the same spot spell out this, which, by the way, isn't probably a thing, but I bet you somebody has tried that. And they've been like, the 40th letter of every drop was Q. And you're like, that's got to mean something. But yeah, I'm sure it does.
I mean, again, to me, I think that most of the questions that people, I think, were asking themselves about QAnon leading into the release of this doc didn't necessarily get answered. Other questions that you weren't asking got answered, and it was a fascinating story. But nobody, I imagine somebody who might have seen it saw it on HBO Max, am I going to watch this tonight? They come in from, oh, I haven't talked to my uncle for a year because of this shit. Or, what is this about? Or, oh, I've heard of this thing. Or, this is what the Capitol was about, right? And, a lot of things that relate to, what is it? And I feel like they touched on it enough so that somebody could understand that there's underground community of largely right-wing people who have been radicalized into believing that fantastical stories are capable, are possible. And again, I'm not wholesale saying that there's not a global cabal somewhere. I'm just saying that if you're going to do it, you got to come with a little bit more proof than you currently have,
Then secret drops are pinned by a watch.
Because a lot of this is based off of, saying that the media is slanted into a particular side, or they're always going to give you the news the way that they choose to give it to you, and there's only so many, all the news that you possibly watch is one of 7 large corporations that owns all of them. Yeah. These are all valid points. Absolutely. And this is what gets somebody in the door to, they're all under the same brain trust, some new world order of media conglomeration.
The recovery stories. The guy who apologized to Anderson Cooper because he was like, I legitimately thought you were drinking the blood of children. He was just like, it's a slippery slope, because as soon as you find the one thing that you agree with and it's probably true, 7 corporations control the news in the entire world. 6 of those 7 corporations are headed by a single individual. One less now since Viacom.
One of those corporations put on HBO Max and put on the documentary. So,
but I think that the one thing I was missing from this wasn't missing from this, and you put it aptly. I'm going to put it a different way, less aptly. The jinx has fucked us up.
Yeah. Because
we are consistently waiting for the hot mic of one of these guys in the show to be like, what do you want me to say? I'm Q? I'm fucking Q. I can't just admit it straight out. And then you'd be like, oh, he fucking said it, he is. Because one documentary one time got a guy to admit he killed somebody on mic.
Well, and the other part too is that the reveal of Ron as Q is kind of Ron lies all the time. Not in a like, oh, do you know who I was dating last night? I went out on a date with Pamela Anderson.
See, and we know that
that's
guy.
a clear lie.
Yeah,
like
we
I
that
know
guy.
that shit's like it's just like one of those like, oh, last night I ate Arby's, and it's just like you find out that he went to Subway, and it's like, why did he lie? Like that didn't seem like a high stakes lie. Like what?
Yeah.
Like what? Does he just lie all the time? And then like it makes you wonder if he does admit things, if he's lying too. Like.
Yes.
The great thing about the Jinx was you got him walking away going like, oh, they fucking got you now. They're going to figure out you murdered her.
Yeah.
And it's like you put out the statement as good as you possibly, like it was written, like it was manna from heaven just coming down.
Yeah.
That was the problem. Like, like we didn't have the like, shit, I hope he doesn't know that I'm Q. Am I still on this call? Like,
I mean, but there was that moment where he was like, we can be done recording if you want. And he puts the camera down.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking we're going to get that hot mic moment, and we just didn't.
Well, that was the Bannon.
Yes.
Like
yes.
I think Bannon's Q. Or like we all know Bannon's Q or something like that. Like
and I kept going back and forth between either this guy is the smartest, Ron is either the smartest guy in the world, or he's a guy with half a plan and just has stumbled into some really lucky shit.
See, I don't put the like he's some evil genius mantle on him. I think it's more that he is a creature of message boards because he runs them.
Yep.
Like he knows how they operate. And I think he has a better understanding of how I would always know when it was going to get busy at the restaurant because certain things would happen.
Yeah.
Like
you could start seeing it start to roll
you could
up
start
together.
seeing like the little indications that the rush is coming. Usually it's like you get like 5 customers all at once, and then all of a sudden you have like 2 minutes off or like 5 minutes off, or there's nobody, and you're just like, it's coming.
Yep.
This is the first batch of a lot of people walking through the door.
Everybody was thinking about coming. A bunch of people went with their first thought.
Yeah.
We're about to get 10 times that many who had that as their second thought and went with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And because of that, I feel like because he knows how people react to things being posted on the site, like he might have a better understanding of how to, if you worked at YouTube and you were in charge of writing the algorithm, you'd probably make really good YouTube videos because you know what it takes to get the algorithm to spike to give you what you want. Like, that's
there is a reason people at YouTube are not allowed to monetize their channels because they have insight into how to make people watch the videos,
right?
Keep them on the channel.
And just because, but even if even if you're a guy even if you write the algorithm for YouTube and you have your own channel talking about trinkets, you wouldn't necessarily be successful. You have to have things go right too.
True.
So like even a dumber person can get lucky and have all the right things happen in place where it sort of goes like that. And I think that's sort of where.
Well, the only thing that was upsetting to me is to find out that, to not find out that I was not a suspect in Q. And
they didn't even throw an oddball.
He's on message boards, which, I'm on Reddit.
Yeah.
And I was on 8chan sometimes, mainly just to laugh at nerds. But, I say that ironically. Also, I think the Socratic argument style is basically my heart and soul of argument style. It's like, I believe nothing that I'm saying, but I'm going to make you defend the point that you just made by asking a ridiculous open-ended question.
Yeah.
Which is, in fact, how Q operates. Also, I like to fuck with conservatives by pretending I'm conservative and then make them do dumb shit. So I feel like I was not considered. And I should have been.
Can I make a pitch for one thing I would have added to the doc?
Go ahead.
I
thought you were going to add something to the list of how I could be cute.
No. I that idea gave me an idea.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I think the filmmaker, I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but the guy who was in charge, we see him on camera a lot.
Cullen?
Yeah, Cullen. There we go. I think that he should have had like somebody who was clearly not Q, but like on his board that he goes back to every once in a while and comes up with big stretches as to why.
Yeah.
So like in a QAnon-y kind of way, like he's just like people who have been on my list of suspects: Raman Jin Watkins, Frederick Bannon, Steve Bannon, Flynn,
Steve,
and fucking this guy who was the third lead on an ABC sitcom that nobody watched. Like,
now let me tell
named
you why
John Thompson. Here's why I think it is. And then just like go like every every 40 minutes or so worth of episode time, just have him like cut to like a camera pointed right at him and just be like, put together all the steps. He did an ad for PNC. PNC is the 5th largest financial institution. The 5th largest media market is Fox. And they said on 5/5/05 this at 5 o'clock. And then just like, boy, whatever happened to that show Crazy Town? It's just like, ha ha. I think now back to our show. And then just like go back to like, like trying to get Brennan out of Manila and stuff like that.
I don't know the guy's name who played Q on Star Trek, but I would have loved to see that.
Oh, yeah.
It always just comes back to like, why Q? Why the letter Q? Because he thinks he is Q.
Because a big James Bond fan, clearly. Which was my first. Did you hear what Q said? I was like, James Bond?
But I think that one of the overarching messages that they didn't really push enough at the end of the doc is, where are they? Where are all the QAnon people? Where is Q? And I think Jim, ironically, put it most aptly during the documentary. I think it was Jim, that one of two things is going to happen. Either he's going to disappear after the election because the president has won, Trump has won, and he's no longer needed because it was really just to rally the base. Or he will disappear because he's out of power and he really didn't know anything. Or he'll stick around and just try to continue to manipulate things. We got a little bit of that up to the 6th. But that wasn't even really Q, because that was really the stuff for Q was kind of like late last year.
But my big fear with the idea of QAnon, just in general, is that this isn't necessarily the successful version of this play.
Yes, like I think that's what they ended up going with. Is the point is that it could be
because it's like think about like boy bands were around for a while, and then all of a sudden Perlman figured out the magic to put like he had the code, and then he started launching boy bands one after the other.
Make too many of them.
Yeah. But they were all successable. Like he figured out the algorithm, if you will. So
but then he switched gears because he was like, you know what, Justin's what they really
he
want.
got too greedy. That's it. That was his problem. He thought that he could stand over top of them forever, and he just never.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I guess it was Scooter who's like, you know what, we don't need the 5 guys. I need the one really cute guy.
I mean, at the end, all these stories are Icarus flying too close to the sun.
What, Dr. Luke? What? Anyway,
he didn't molest the sun, all right?
I almost had a chance to have lunch with Dr. Luke this week. Yeah. Oh, by the way, almost had a chance to have lunch with him. Chose not to because
probably
given
for
the
best.
Opportunity to even further my own career by having some sort of breaking bread with somebody of that caliber. I said no because I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
What was that question I asked you about Woody? Anyway, COVID. So, talking about the COVID news of the week. Oh, wait, I have the wrong picture queued up. Hang on. Whoop, that's not it.
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna skip ahead here a little bit. We had our highest travel weekend in 2 years this past weekend.
Yes.
And I definitely felt it sort of in the ether of social media that it seems like more people are out and about.
Fuck you guys, by the way.
Well, I feel less to judge, seeing as this week I will be driving to San Francisco.
That's right.
To get out.
That's right. You can't judge anymore, so I must now become judge, jury, and executioner.
No, because I mean, like I do feel like there is there are safe ways to do this and non-safe ways to do this. Like
the people of rural Illinois might disagree with you.
Well, they have. We'll get to that. I mean, I think that the less people that you interact with in general, the better off your chances of not contracting the virus. Just rule of large numbers says that, like
my life in general then will just make me safe forever. So it'll be great.
I just I don't know. I'm at the point now where I got the 1 dose. Mm-hmm. My second dose is next week. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks out from that, I'm not immune, but the efficacy is 95% ish.
Edging up towards 100 the further we get. So
yeah, but more importantly, at that point, I am feeling confident that I do not get the serious illness or the death, which is really the concern rather than the because again, I think we said this before. I feel like if I got COVID, there's better than even shot that I would just be able to pass it and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But the I don't know aspect of that is the most
and the high risk factor
terrifying
for you
part.
to not have the smooth sailing is higher just due to your own factors.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, you got the next shot coming up next week. 100% efficacy, working towards 100% efficacy, like 2-3 weeks away. I've always known you to be such a daredevil, which explains why you would travel the week before those things happen. It's amazing.
I think for me, this is I've wanted to be able to do something that was safe this entire time, you know?
I go hiking every weekend.
Oh, I know. But I mean, like, there have been various times throughout this whole thing where we talked about, like, well, is there a way to do Vegas safely? And we would examine potential.
I am paying for a weekend for everyone to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was forcibly pressed to wait until after everybody gets the vaccine.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, let's do a ski weekend where I offered to pay for a ski up chalet where we drive in with groceries to a chalet. We ski out of the chalet onto the slopes. At the end of the day, you ski back into the chalet. Let's be honest, most of our crew would spend the entire trip in a hot tub with bottles of wine. They would not come into contact with anyone, except for maybe the drizzly delivery driver. And otherwise, we have no contact with anyone. We don't even have to get, like, on the roadway to go to the slopes. Nope. Can't do it. You need to wait. And then 1 week before your second dose, you're traveling.
It is amazing how the vaccine just immediately, like the day after the vaccine, I'm just like, I'm good.
So what you're seeing, folks, is why America is doomed. Right here. Let me make him front and center. Why America's doomed.
It's
right
hard.
on your screen right now.
It's so hard. I just don't get I really don't get the flying, to be honest. And the going to the places where, I mean, because at the very least, California right now, as the numbers say, doing very well. LA.
I'm still fascinated by this. I think it's just the rule of large numbers that we cannot comprehend the overall numbers. Go ahead. Give the numbers out. Go ahead.
No, I mean, like, we're at like LA had like 489 cases or something like that today. The last couple of weeks have all been
several hundred
sort
per
of a
day.
plateau of
Several
somewhere
hundred per
between 400 and 900 or so, I guess it would be a general.
Testing is down 70%.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people who are being tested are healthcare workers who are vaccinated who must be tested. So positivity rates being down, not surprising, giving all statistical evidence.
Yeah. I mean, I am nervous about the test. I mean, the last couple times I got tested,
nobody was there.
So it's not quite the same as
I
was waiting in hours in line at the Dodger Stadium testing site, you know?
I remember the first test where I waited in line at least 90 minutes. You guys were in line in front of me, and I was in sight of you when I first got in line, and I got out of line an hour after you. But the last couple of times, well, I've been lucky enough that we had them come into work to do testing. So a couple of times I've gotten it done at work, which is nice. And it's the instant PCR. So efficacy. But the last couple of times.
I mean, all tests are like that, though. I mean, like, you got to sort of take it with a grain of salt.
But the last couple of times I've gone to the Echo Park one, and everybody was on lunch one of the times I walked up. I stood in line for like 10 minutes. Nobody else in line. I just stood at the stop sign.
Yeah.
And then finally, like, a dude walked out to go. Someone else, he was like, oh, shit, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, come on. There hadn't been anybody been there for an hour. So they had just all kind of like started chilling in a little booth together. And then he realized I was there. I was like, oh, wait. Oh, we got to test. Hey, yeah, come on over. But testing is, positivity's down because only people who are getting tested are vaccinated. And we know the vaccine has a high efficacy rate. So the likelihood of positive tests is very low. We vaccinated 19% of the population, which is millions and millions of people.
Yeah.
But it's not herd immunity.
No.
Not even close to herd immunity. I have people walking around my office this week talking about antibodies and immunity when they got COVID in March of 2020.
Yeah, I mean, Part of California's logic for reopening is the combination of
changing the rules to make sure we can open. That's what it is.
Well, no, we've reached all the guidelines that were set to get to these different tiers. Like, it wasn't.
It used to be a percentage of tests given positivity rate. Now it's positivity rate. That's it. So, yeah, I mean, and it used to be just that, and now it's vaccines plus positivity rate.
Well, no, vaccines were part of the calculus that they came up with originally, but they weren't
zero vaccines.
Yeah, zero vaccines for most of 2020. So,
well, I'm sure that was weighted absolutely correctly, given the fact that we didn't have a vaccine and didn't know its efficacy rate at that point. So,
again, I guess they were hoping for at least not killing people is good enough for an efficacy rate. Like,
well, I guess we'll know for next week, right? No, 2 weeks. Episode in 2 weeks will be the first one where I will have been eligible, and we'll see how the appointment system goes.
I mean, there's some people we know who are making appointments already. So,
yes,
I think that there might be you might be able to just pre-schedule your appointment for 2 weeks from now.
From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. I will not jump the line.
I'm not saying jump the line.
I will sit here and fucking whine about it the entire time. But also,
I'm not saying jump the line. I'm saying if you're available, if the first day that you could get the vaccine, which is everyone 16 and over in California on the 15th of April.
Yes.
If you set up an appointment right now for the 16th of April,
even
though at the time that you
setting the appointment, not getting the vaccine.
Okay, fine.
I literally
you can wait.
Sat in the same room, in the very big open office room, with someone as they checked all the different stuff to see what would allow them to get an appointment, and then got an appointment and went and got it.
Yeah.
And my judgmental comments aside, which obviously didn't persuade them whatsoever, they went and got it, and that's fine. And I'm sure nobody missed out on a vaccine, because this 22-year-old who wanted to go to a rave got their vaccine and has since gone to a rave, not understanding that, the first dose of the vaccine.
Yeah.
I just keep saying this. I pray to the God I don't believe in that this thing will just mutate and just kill 50% of the population.
Well, I, again, hope that doesn't happen.
I really hope it does. In fact, if it could just target people who don't stay home. Can we tie it to alcohol?
Again,
like spreads to people who drink alcohol in public. That would be great. I
think the real problem here is that we say these things, and then people who listen to the show in Maryland or listen to the show in South Dakota or listen to the show in Texas or Florida or any other state all have different interpretations of what safety means in terms of COVID, because the rules are so different based off of where you live.
I don't give a fuck what the rules are. If we were still in Maryland, I'd still be saying this. I'd be saying, Governor Hogan, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I'm not saying you wouldn't. I'm saying that when people are, say you're in Maryland, right? You
everything's open.
It's February of 2019, 2020, and everything's grand, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everything shuts down, nationwide. And then as things go, different governors create different rules for what can be open, what can't be open. There's no saying that you being in the state where dining never goes away, where indoor dining never goes away, it's just cut down significantly. You don't say to yourself, well, this seems safe, like 10% or 25% occupancy in this restaurant, which is really big.
Yeah.
You might go and see this and feel safe to do it every so often. But no, I'm just saying.
This is what Q had right, though. This is the thing that Q had right. Don't just fucking watch other people and then just believe it because you see it around you. Now, I'm not saying he was right about do the exact opposite, because that is obviously correct, but have some critical thinking skills.
No. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that it is necessarily right or wrong to have these opinions one way or the other. I'm saying that
it's wrong, just so it's clear.
I'm saying that people are going to be guided based off of what they are told to be is safe, you know? And then more people who do certain things and there's no consequences for it, the more the groupthink becomes, this is safe.
Greatest country in the world. Leads the world in what 3 things, Corey?
Incarcerated citizens.
Per capita.
People who believe angels are real.
By the way, number 1 in the world by far in the number of people who believe angels.
I can't remember what the other one from the newsroom was, though. What was
defense spending.
Yeah,
where
true.
we spend more than 26 or more than 25 of the 26 next countries. Oh no, 20 of the next 26 countries and 25 are allies, which is not true because now it's 24 are allies. But yeah. But number of people who believe angels are real. You're making an argument that there is just, oh, listen, there's a bunch of people out here and they think angels are real, and they also think they don't have to wear masks, and so they should be allowed to not wear masks. And I say you should put these people somewhere, concentrate them together.
The problem is
desert,
we don't.
in a tent somewhere.
We don't know. From the beginning, I was saying, you know what seems to be working really well? The system that South Korea, Japan, New Zealand, a couple other countries.
Places where it's all back to normal now and there's no cases?
Yeah. This seems like a really great idea.
Yep.
This seems like the way to get through this. And then we didn't go that way. But it's hard to no. The problem with this is the metrics can't ever be the same. It's not always 2 + 2 = 4. It's this huge long thing that sometimes equals 4. Like this huge long equation that sometimes equals 4. All the different variables within are so wide that you can't necessarily say that one thing necessarily equals, like you could say it from like a system of like, if there's 38,000 people in a ballpark all crammed together, the chances of you getting COVID are way higher because you're crunched in with a bunch of people.
Which there was.
Right.
So wait for that event.
But at the same time, you can't somebody I'm sure got sick being in a gas station with one person. You know?
His name is Corey Baker.
No, I'm saying
he felt super safe because he had his first vaccine. So
I'm saying one person in a single room can cause somebody to think that any people is bad news. You know, so it's a constantly moving target, and one thing, outdoor dining is not the same every single restaurant, let alone across the country. So outdoor dining in Topeka is probably pretty safe compared to New York City.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I say I have been a student of the human species, about the human animal, and I take the belief of K from Men in Black. A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky animals, and we cannot trust them with anything, not even their own health. Certainly can't trust them at a ballpark. Thank you, Texas Rangers, for opening up your ballpark and causing a super spreader event. We'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah.
As I said in the pre-show meeting, we can't even say event because that ballpark will be open every day, essentially, for the next 100 days. So it'll just be an outbreak in Texas. And how can we blame the ballpark when those people also go out to restaurants and go out to bars and go out everywhere else?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's open like that, you can't even necessarily say where you got it. If the only reason you leave your house is to go to the grocery store once and you get COVID,
the grocery
store like caused it.
Yep.
But it's not. That doesn't necessarily mean the grocery store is more safe or dangerous than any other place.
Yep.
It could just be the place you happen to be in close contact with somebody who had COVID. Like that could be anywhere.
However, there was a bar in rural Illinois that had a welcome back, we're open party, and 36 people came down, 42 people came down with COVID, tested positive for COVID. Another 30 people refused to get tested because
why would I?
QAnon, probably something revolving around that, and so we don't even know the extent. But apparently, this smaller area with an aging but not retired community, so like 40 to 55, essentially, is about to have had a super spreader event that's about to just run rampant through the community. And again, my weekly reminder: you say we're down to like 500 cases a day, and we're
in
down
LA,
to 100 deaths a day, and nationwide we're down to I think 400 deaths a day. I want you to imagine 400 people. What is something that holds 400 people and no more? So
a black box theater.
a city bus has 18 seats on each side, so call that 36 people. So it's
10 of them.
10 city buses.
Well, 11, I guess. Yeah.
But 10 city buses.
Yeah.
Even that's hard to comprehend. A Boeing 767 holds about 200 people, 250 people. If you've ever been on a 777 Dreamliner, like the one that has the 2 stories, and it goes, that holds 450 people. That many people on that plane with the 2 rows at the windows and the 4 seats in the middle, and then the upper deck that has another group of seats on it. That many people die every day in this country from COVID.
Yeah.
550,000 plus. Now we're pushing 575. Another nice round number we can talk about. 575 dead.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, well, it's not 3,000 a day, but to those 400 people, very important. The number of children who have lost a parent is heading towards a percentage point, a full percentage point. We're talking about like war, the number of children who lose a parent to warfare.
Yeah.
It's going to decimate the next generation. Thankfully, it seems to be impacting families of all races and types. Obviously it has impacted communities of color more than other, but because there are more white communities, the percentage overall is spread pretty evenly. Who knows what that impact that's going to have on our country in the next generation. Hopefully, it produces more people like me who don't have children and just let this menace that is the human race die out finally.
Well, hopefully it also doesn't produce more people like Matt Gaetz, because...
Well, listen, Matt Gaetz might have the opposite idea of mine. Mine is to not have children ever. His is to only have sex with children, and they can't get pregnant, so it's totally fine.
God.
And he's paying them for it, so it's like it's economic boost, and it's,
He's just trying to stimulate the economy.
He's stimulating something. I don't know if it's the economy. But here's the highlight for me of the Matt Gaetz controversy is he went around Congress showing pictures of his latest conquests. And some congressmen said they made them uncomfortable because the girls in the pictures looked young.
Yeah.
And listen, Matt, if congressmen are upset about how young the girls in your pictures look, it's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
That's not
to be fair, they're all 70 years old, so you could probably show them a 30-year-old and they're just like, whoa, what's this young woman?
Listen, that's a lot.
Is that illegal?
It's not like showing a group of priests some pictures of little boys. Listen, they're going to know the difference between 20 and not, all right? They're going to know very clearly, that motherfucker's going to tell somebody. I need somebody younger than that, somebody who can keep a secret. But that's not even the... that is the worst part, arguably. It's not the bulk of this controversy, though.
The broad strokes here, Matt Gaetz, congressman from Florida.
Republican, holy roller congressman from
Florida.
Florida.
Trump Republican from Florida, yeah.
Are those synonymous now? Holy roller and Trump Republican? The guy who's divorced 4 times, has kids from 3 different women. Is he a holy roller now?
I don't think he is, though. Is he?
Divorced?
No, has he been with anybody? Has he been married at all?
Trump?
No. Oh, Gaetz. I was talking.
No.
I was gonna.
If you're a Trumper, you can't be a Trumper and a holy roller, right? Trump's been divorced 4 times, kids by 3 different women. Just a horrible human being. You can't be like, I'm pro Jesus and I'm pro that. Listen, we just came out of Easter, which we didn't mention at all, I think, last episode. And Easter, by the way, celebration of a brown-skinned, long-haired hippie who hung out with degenerates. Sounds more like me than it does Trump.
It's nice to know that he got engaged last year, Matt Gaetz.
I'm sure that woman's very proud.
To a woman named Ginger Lucky. I bet you don't feel too lucky nowadays.
Now, wait a second. Did Matt, like our good friend Zach, have a wild weekend in Vegas? End up proposing to a stripper?
That is a very strippery name, I will say.
Listen, some of the girls are underage. That's a part of this. The bigger part of it is he was paying young women, whether legal or not, for sex. he was utilizing campaign / slush funds for said payments and getting services for other people using that money as well. Sometimes in the same room, which we've known each other a long time. And I'm not going to say that I've never had sex while you were in the room, because that would be a lie. Yeah, however,
I know that to be a lie.
However, you know that to be a lie because I told you, and not because you were awake during.
No, I was in my hibernation cycle, so I got.
If Corey's in the room sleeping, it's easy to tell whether or not he's awake or asleep. Whether he's dead or asleep, these are two very close, very difficult to tell. But you can tell if he's sleeping. So it was more easy to, and when you were a younger man, it was actually a little easier to tell, I think. But never have we high-fived in the middle of some sort of sexual escapade, which is, I imagine, 100% what Gaetz was doing.
Yeah,
him and his buddies just like high-fiving.
I'm just, what makes this whole thing so fascinating to me is we don't know a whole lot about the FBI's case against Gaetz, other than the couple things that have trickled out, traveling with the 17-year-old.
Oh, by the way, this is the
paying over like Cash App and stuff like that.
This is the beautiful man sitting next to Corey. That is Matt Gaetz, who is seducing young women, who absolutely didn't have to pay for it. Why would he?
You know, it's funny. He's like, this isn't a great picture of Matt Gaetz.
Arguably,
it's a little under the chin.
Yeah.
But you know, surprisingly, Matt Gaetz, not a bad looking guy.
He's young.
Good head of hair.
Yeah.
Wears great suits. I always think that he turns it up like 10 or 15%, a little bit too much for me. Like he'll wear like a really great gray suit, but it'll have like the striping that's just a little too aggressive.
He's South Florida, right? South Florida congressman. Yeah, he's got that South Florida look though. It's The Rock. I wouldn't wear that, but it looks good on you.
Yeah. Oh, if you're walking around in front of the Clevelander, it looks great.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but, you know, just in downtown Des Moines.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, or Washington, D.C. What's so fascinating to me about this whole thing is we don't know a whole lot about the possible impending charges coming against him. We know enough to make it interesting.
Yeah.
What Gaetz does, though, on the other side, is come up with a fantastical story that I don't even... like, to be honest, like the facts of it are so. Accuse me of something real quick. Something that's not serious. Let's. Can we? I don't want to have the stench of a serious accusation on me, but something low bar.
Corey.
Yeah.
It's come to my attention that you are borrowing a Netflix password from someone else, and that's in fact not your account.
Not only is this thing patently untrue, I know for a fact that the Pope is involved in a secret affair to get me kicked off of Netflix because he's so angry with how perfect my Netflix is. Like anytime you log in and you see the next, like the recommended for you, it's just the best of Netflix every single time. I've crafted a incredible profile.
Yeah.
And he's so angry about this, even though I've never personally met the man. He's so angry about this that he has decided to ruin my life. And I have these very vague accusations to lay upon him in which to defend myself.
Oh, also don't forget the
like it's
and
like
you know about being accused of using somebody's
you
Netflix
know what
number?
it's like not paying for Netflix.
Motherfucker, you gonna come on my show and make some shit like that up? Like, we both know I'm cheating on my wife. Don't be fucking throwing some shit out like that.
That was the best part when Matt Gaetz goes on Tucker to defend himself. So
that's where he comes up with this wild accusation.
He comes up with this thing where it's just like, no, they're actually blackmailing me, and my father wore a wire, and it's just like, where did this story come from? Like, usually if you're getting investigated in this manner, they usually don't. The wearing of wires and the like trying to get somebody is usually something that they're doing to further the charges as opposed to like.
Yeah, I think his logic was
because my dad wore a wire. It must be
we're collaborating in some grand scheme.
Something tells you the police just lied to him.
I mean, that's also possible.
I mean, like, there's nothing against the FBI lying to you.
No, 100%. By the way, yeah, the cops will 100% lie to you about everything, and it's totally fine.
You know, your buddy already told us that you were there.
Yeah.
Like one of those types of.
Yeah, watch the first 48 and to watch how often they do that. Where it's like two guys in a room and they're like, they told us about Shanice. Who? Tasha? No, he didn't tell you about Tasha. And then you go in the other room and you're like, he was telling us about Tasha. And like you make shit up and then like use them off each other. Never believe it.
So Gaetz is in some trouble. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. I'm very curious to see how this goes forward. Because right now it's just it's like a good teaser trailer. Like
it really was.
It's like I'm excited for this new version of the Batman. Like,
well, so I'll say this: it wasn't a good teaser trailer, but it's a teaser trailer where you're like, that makes no fucking sense. Either this is going to be a great movie or it's going to be a fucking terrible movie. And I'm leaning towards great. I'm leaning towards like these are all threads that are going to be woven together in an amazing story.
Yeah, that's
going to involve Gaetz using a email like matt.gaetz@gmail.com to cash app a girl, and in the description it's just
Big
going to be
Daddy Gaetz@gmail.com.
And the description's going to be like, for services rendered with a wink, and it's like, really?
For services rendered, wink, return. I mean sex if you didn't.
So Corey doesn't use PayPal because of.
I use PayPal.
You don't send money via PayPal. I can't send you money on PayPal.
Yeah, you can.
Venmo. Corey doesn't use Venmo. For reasons which are almost as complicated as his Pope Netflix explanation. But for those of you who do, you'll know that they're somewhat public. You can make it public, and of course the ones you make public are like for taco and whatever. You just make an innuendo so that when people are flipping through their stream, they see innuendo and stuff. And I just imagine Matt Gaetz is 100% the frat bro who will have done that. So
money.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Moving on. The Chauvin trial is still happening in Minnesota.
Yes.
We wanted to give a quick little update here. The worst part is we talked about it last week at the start of the trial, and then in between the week that we talk about it on the show and then coming back here, so much happens, and then like it's not like people who are doing like a daily recap of this thing are so much more on board. But quick recap of the week. I mean, more or less, Minnesota, in the legal system in Minnesota, is very dedicated to getting every single piece of the story on the record.
Accurate testimony. Yeah.
And we were talking about this before. In Maryland, if you need to get some evidence on the stand or into the record, some guy shot a video, you need to get that video on the stand or in the record. You just call them to the stand. You say, "Hey, did you shoot this video? Were you out there at that time?" A couple other questions just to set up the bases that guy was there and then he shot this video. And then that's good. See you later. Thank you very much for coming here today. In Minnesota, the way that you have to set up evidence is so much more labor intensive.
Yeah.
So every single one of these people that they call up on the stand probably takes 5 times longer than it needs to because they're trying to cover every basis.
It's not here's a snapshot of a moment. You were here in that moment, and this is the video of that moment. It's how did you come to be at this place at that time, and describe for us the situation. Essentially, tell us what we're going to see, then we're going to see it, and then you're going to tell us what we saw.
Yeah.
And that makes things a lot more complicated. And really, realistically, nothing huge happened this week. The paramedic who was there on the scene testified. The ER doctor testified today.
I like the paramedic too.
Yes.
What's great about her is she reminds me of every like super sharp EP. Like I just think of like she's probably like the smartest friend of her
friend group.
Her friend group.
Like, I take offense at that, but okay.
Well, I mean like the like
medically inclined,
dedicated, like doggedness, kind of like she seemed like she was like, I'm gonna be a firefighter, and then she's like, and now I'm gonna be the best. Like it's like a multi-step.
And so that's not actually the paramedic who worked on him. That was the one from the crowd.
Yeah.
But we also heard from the paramedic who worked on him.
Yeah.
And possibly the second most interesting thing of the week, where it was just like, I had to eventually ask the officer to get off of him so I could work on him. That's telling in some respect. The other one was the dude from the crowd who was just like, you called him a bitch. And he was like, sure did. Looking right at him. Sure did. You called him a fucking bitch. Yep. You called him a fucking pussy ass bitch. If I said it, if it's on the video, I said it. Yep.
I hope this gets said later in the trial, but guilty as charged.
So there was
something tells me the judge would not appreciate that one.
No, I don't think so. there was like funny moments. I guess you could call that funny. I only thought it was funny because in between every answer, he looked over and waited for Chauvin to look up at him. And I was like, "Yep." Like almost like I'm calling you a bitch again.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said? Yeah.
I'm gonna do it on the record this time.
I did that. So those are interesting, but again, we also spent 40 minutes before that. Like, okay, so tell us about the events of May 19th. Well, so I had worked earlier. Let's start earlier than that. So you got
what time
up,
did you wake up?
Yeah, you got up in the morning. Like, oh, okay, we're gonna go all the way back. And his girlfriend had also testified to some of the events of the day, but he literally just went through them again. Like they were together for a part of that time, and he went through the same events again. But I wanted to talk about it only because I wanted to rescind my comment from an earlier episode where I said, I think that they are in part hoping to drag it out so that you get into the jury room and you say, it's been 8 weeks. What can we agree on? Let's start there. And what do we disagree on? And how can we like cut a deal?
Yeah.
I think that they are making an appeal-proof trial right now. And they are covering everything into what you were saying about like, there's no appeal for like, well, listen, they had this guy testify on the video, but we don't know how he came to be on that street corner. Like, no, every witness, that dude, once his girlfriend testifies about he met her at 1 p.m. and then they were together the rest of the day, theoretically, he doesn't have to say what they did the rest of the day. What did you do up until the point at 1 where we heard her testify, they were together and what they did up until the time, 8:20 p.m.
Yeah.
But you cover all the bases by saying, all right, so now you're with her. We heard her testify about going to lunch. Why don't you tell us your version of that? It's like, we went to the same restaurant. We ordered the same food.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you everything she said, but it doesn't matter because you can't appeal on the fact that something he said later wasn't substantiated by something he said before. So,
well,
it's
I mean,
long and drawn out, but
I feel like parts of this case is like you're trying to like you said, like try and make it appeal proof in a way, but also like there's so much here.
Yeah.
And the basis by which they're going to try and poke holes and say that Chauvin is innocent of all charges, you know, largely go back to the idea of like, was he in violation of a police policy?
Right.
So why don't we load a ton of stuff on top of it? So it's so clear that like every witness that I've heard from so far has said some sort of version of I was disgusted or like I knew this was wrong or
I still feel guilty.
Yeah, like there's like a lot of responses of people going like, no, I knew that this guy was in serious danger, you know, and then he was also had his neck need on for 7 more minutes, you know, like
yeah.
It's like
it's so, and I'll say this: I know defense attorney's getting a lot of hate. I don't think that's justified. Everybody deserves to have a good defense attorney, to have a defense,
and everyone deserves to have a zealous of defense too. That's the other. I get why people don't like Chauvin having a lawyer. I think in the minds of a lot of people, you know, we saw the video, we saw what he did. Why don't we just put him in jail for the rest of his life right now?
Yeah.
Like, why are we even going through the bullshit of the trial? But the trial is the justice system that we've all decided on. And
that's where I give on it. I mean, we've decided this is what we're going to do. Now, if we're going to just say, listen, it's on video. Video is a violation of the law. Throw away the key. I am 100% fine with just putting him in jail and throwing away the key. But you have to be okay with the fact that if you commit a crime on video, you don't get a trial. You get thrown away. That's
if
it.
it was you, you'd want some lawyer to do whatever it takes to get you off.
Yeah.
Like it's. my dad as a lawyer has never had to he doesn't do criminal defense, so he's never had a problematic client in that regard. But if you're a criminal defense lawyer, you have to do what you have to do to win the case for your client, and you could be disbarred if you don't try hard enough. Essentially,
well, I mean, listen, I think I've said this before. It's you do everything you absolutely can, and if on appeal they raise insufficient counsel, you go in and agree with whatever you think you can agree with. Could I have done that? Absolutely. Did I? It didn't.
Yeah.
And would it have had a different result? It absolutely could have had a different result if I did that. And a lot of those are balls and strikes where it's like, well, you
it's
weren't
a judgment
in the
call,
courtroom, and I was reading the jury, and I figured if I continue this, it's only going to make it worse. There's no getting better from here. But maybe
when
the
it
next
gets
question gets better.
Well, but also at the point where in the mind of the lawyer, you can say, I didn't decide to go that route because I didn't think the jury was going to agree with it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to appeal later and it's ineffective assistance of counsel, then when they're asking you about it, you're not talking about the weighing how the jury is going to do it. It's oh no, I didn't bring that up.
Yep.
That was my fault. I fucked up.
Could have done that.
I could have done that.
Could have done that. I chose not to, which was part of my trial.
It's falling on the grenade for your client once again.
So long as with a caveat, as long as the client doesn't come after you for personal responsibility to be he fucked me up. Motherfucker, we decided on what we were going to do. I'm willing to go into your appeal hearing and fall on the grenade.
And there's also, there could be too zealously defending your client, which is you commit a crime to aid them in trying to get off. Well, I mean, but that's I think criminal defense attorneys in particular are very easy to sort of paint as the bad guys. But, I imagine that on any issue, if you had to say to somebody it's a life or death for you to argue the other side of something you deeply believe. Yeah. You have to make a compelling argument on abortion or something like that. You could come up with the argument. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't feel good about yourself doing it. You would not like the person you are while you're doing it. But as part of the job you have to do,
I can do it.
You could put yourself in that position.
We talked, or we watched a documentary, or maybe I watched it by myself, about the ACLU lawyer who defended the Nazis in Skokie, Illinois. But he's the whole point of our system is you need to have a right to have somebody argue on your behalf. What better than a person who is literally arguing the thing that they do not believe, but they know all of the flaws of the argument on the other side. So
it was a Jewish lawyer too.
Yeah, he was an actively Jewish lawyer. He went to synagogue every single week, but that's who you get to poke holes in the theory of, and the example that pops
and also as a lawyer, especially one who sues the type of lawyer who always tries to get to the Supreme Court on some suit funded by somebody else. You'll find your most compelling arguments lay on the other side of the argument that you thought. Yeah. If you wanted to ban guns, you would maybe come at it from the side of somebody who owns way more guns than anyone else in America. Yep. That's the way you find the end of your case as opposed to finding the person who owns no gun.
The first gender bias case was about a husband in the military. Yeah. Because they'll agree that, hey, he's serving just as much as she is, but if it was a wife, they wouldn't agree with that. She's a homemaker, so it's different.
My I've talked about this before. My grandfather was argued the first Supreme Court case for school prayer. Mm-hmm. And you start to think school prayer, this is about, some kid getting dragged out for praying or something like that. But it was, if I remember the case correctly, it was more about allowing kids to have the time for peaceful reflection for themselves. Yes. Which is not not insinuating that the school allows for prayer, but more so that if there is time to allow children to pray for themselves. Well,
if I remember, the original case was the kid didn't want to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Instead, he wanted to sit and pray during that time. And they were like, no, absolutely not. And it's so these kids are doing the pledge. It takes 30 seconds to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. If he can actively take that time to do something else. He chose to pray, which you didn't like, so you didn't let him do it. But back to the defense lawyer stuff, the thing that pops out in my mind is I helped a client come up with a plea agreement. And the plea was for 10 years, which sounds like a lot. But the total amount of years faced on all charges was 120 years. That's a lot of time. Now, You get 12 me's on the jury, you're going to walk out of here scot-free.
Yeah.
After this trial. You get 100 of my dads, or you get 12 of my dads on that jury, you might get 120 years. Like, there's a good chance. So 10 years balanced against what you could get, and knowing the court and the jury pool, and I'm only going to have 3 strikes for no reason, and a lot of this is going to be like, I got to find people who are just looking to put somebody in jail because they've done something what they think is wrong. 10 years, you serve 4.5. It's a non-violent offense. You serve 4.5.
You get to know people a little bit during voir dire, but you don't ever get to know, like, you don't know a jury well enough to know whether or not, like, one of those 12 people is just going to be guilty no matter what.
Yep.
Like, they're looking to find guilty. Like,
again, like
I'm guilty, talk me down. Like, as opposed to he's innocent, talk me into guilty. Like,
and like the Chauvin case, most times the defense lawyer goes in saying, "I need 1. If I can get 1, we'll build from the 1, but I can't go in with 0. That's basically where it is. But that's the problem, is that in some cases that impact a small community, you start out with 0, and you need to win people over. You also need to have an active defense that isn't just like poking holes in the state. You have to say, no, this is our theory about what happened. If you don't have that, maybe making a deal is
that's coming too, right? I mean,
yes.
like the prosecution is putting on their case right now, so a lot of the defense attorney is just poking holes because he's on defense right now,
and a lot of it seems really ridiculous. Like the question was asked today was about like, have you seen these symptoms that Mr. Floyd had in any other situations? Well, I can't really think of anything. Well, what about a fentanyl overdose? Well, yes, you're right about fentanyl. Well, what about oxycodone or some other drug that's similar to fentanyl? Well, with enough of a dose, that could happen. Well, have you seen that before? Yes. Only in a rectal insertion of fentanyl or of oxycodone pills. Now, there is no allegation that George Floyd did that. But if you have somebody on the jury who thinks to themselves, well, the cops saw him swallow a couple of pills, so maybe he did shove the rest of the bag up his butt to try and get rid of him. If you're looking for a reason to give him an out, maybe you just gave that person a reason to give him an out.
I mean, so much of the defense's case is going to be based off of, like George Floyd has a habit of doing this. When he gets arrested, he swallows drugs.
Yes.
Here is a video from a former arrest where he does that.
Yes.
Here is somebody testifying to the fact that George Floyd would do this. Like so on and so forth, and trying to find their lane.
You've heard from their own doctor that taking too many of these drugs can cause asphyxia.
Yeah,
which is would be the same thing as somebody kneeling on a neck. And can we say for sure that he didn't die from the drugs in his system rather than anything else? And the paramedic admitted they didn't administer Narcan because nobody mentioned anything about drugs to them when they showed up on the scene.
Yeah.
So now that's 3 lines of questioning that have established the ability for you to try and show reasonable doubt in your own case.
Yeah.
When you start showing videos that he has previously swallowed drugs or previously whatever in a previous arrest. And again, that's how our system's built. I know it doesn't seem like it. This is a cop, and he's getting the best version of our system, which sucks that that's how it works. But it's supposed to be 12 innocent men go free, or 12 guilty men go free before 1 innocent person goes to jail. Now, I wish it worked like that. But the ideal is whatever happens to Chauvin, whatever happened in the Baltimore 6 trials is how every trial in America should go.
Yeah.
It should be like, you just didn't prove your case.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that's how it works. Also, we should all have PBAs that are funding our defense. Because that wouldn't, although Chauvin doesn't, because I think that guy volunteered. Isn't he working for free, basically?
I mean, if he wins this thing, then he's going to set himself up nicely for the rest of his life. So
my guess is, I don't know that this is true. My guess is that he is, in like many of these cases, you take the criminal case, and the goal is if you win, you also give me the civil case, because then I'll get a third of the civil case for them putting you on trial for his death, and they'll settle, and I'll get the money from that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a long way to go to get your contingency.
Hey, how about American justice system, though? Isn't it great? So let's just kind of
speed around through the rest here.
These 2 topics that really can be speed rounded. SCOTUS and 230, and I think 230 was on my mind because of QAnon, the documentary. Mm-hmm. But Section 230 of the Federal Communications Act basically has allowed the internet to flourish, and it has typically been the right, which has been very much anti-regulation and deregulate. Ronald Reagan's famously deregulate everything, and the left has always been much more. Again, the party's flipped. So when I say TR, what I'm talking about is the fact that Teddy would be a Democrat these days, not a Republican. Was the one who was like, safe food, safe drugs. No, we need some regulation. I can't just do whatever you want. Kids in factories, probably not a good thing. We should do something about that. But Justice Thomas, in a dissent in a recent case, but also when speaking publicly about it later, has now come out saying that he believes that there is a middle ground between having no Section 230 and keeping Section 230 in its purest form. And my argument to this would just be Thomas is the elder member of the conservative section of the court. He's where Scalia was before. And Scalia very kind of infamously would go out and give these talks where he's just like, I'm on for life. I got maybe 10 years, 5 years left. So I'm going to say what I want. I know the Chief Justice can't say that because he's got a long time left and he doesn't want people to start calling balls and strikes on him before the pitch. But I can because fuck it. Everybody knows where I stand. And I think Thomas has reached that point now where he can be a bellwether for the conservative side of the court. The problem, though, where we still stand, and I think we said this a couple weeks ago, I don't know what the conservative side of the court looks like because the Chief Justice has seemed to swing more liberal in the last few decisions, or the bigger of the last few decisions, and it doesn't seem to be falling along the lines you would expect.
I think Roberts, in my mind, is still very much a Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush Republican.
Oh, you mean a Democrat?
Yeah,
Joe Biden Democrat.
Well,
Joe Biden and George W. Bush are not that much different.
The line between George H.W. and Joe Biden, while thin,
yes,
is certainly a line. There's sides on each side of that one.
A screen door, also a line, doesn't mean there's that much separation.
Doesn't keep the wind from blowing, but it keeps the leaves out. Like,
oh, we have just come up with a new example for the American political system. The new left is the screen door to the old conservatives. You feel the breeze, but it keeps the dirt out. That's
I mean, I think I find that we have Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh, who are probably going to be the furthest right.
Yeah, further than Thomas, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Thomas is right there with them, though. And I just wonder, Gorsuch actually seems like he's going to be kind of more in the Roberts lane, though, to the right of Roberts.
Yeah, but still center.
But this is all kind of speculative, too, because there hasn't been a big case. They've kind of been keeping big cases out of the court here recently. So we haven't really had this moment to figure out like where the court sits at this moment. So, it'll be really interesting when we come along to. I do, and with what Thomas has been doing here is sort of setting himself up for the case that will eventually get brought that will focus on this, which is his idea was more of a common carrier suggestion to the way that these companies should run, which is
trains.
The trains. Train is a great idea.
Hotels or airplanes.
Yeah, like everyone is allowed to get on a train. It is when you get on the train and start causing trouble that you can be asked to leave. But there's nothing that necessarily keeps you from getting on the train before before trouble.
And essentially, the carrier can get in trouble for putting undue burden on you to get on the train.
Right.
Everyone should be able to get on the train.
And it would take incredible means to keep somebody from getting on there prior to.
Yes.
They would need to be on a terrorist watch list or, have a long history of saying that they're going to blow up a train if they ever get on one or something like that. But before you could just say this man is not allowed on the train.
But the other side of the coin is if the guy says he's going to blow up a train and you let him on the train, you let him stay on the train, and something happens, you can also be responsible for having allowed him to stay on the train. I think here two things. One less controversial than the other. Scalia did that because he was inviting cases, and I think Thomas, in a way, here is doing the same thing. He's saying like, this is where I stand. So if you maybe have a case like this, maybe you want to bring it and see what we say.
If there was hypothetically a situation where,
the other is, and I like to say one controversial thing every episode. I agree with Justice Thomas on this. I don't know if that's a surprise to people, but yeah, I don't think that the First Amendment is necessarily always good. There's a reason you can't fly a Nazi flag in Germany, because they say, we want you to have freedom to do anything that you, not that. Because there are just some things that shouldn't be allowed. Some things that shouldn't be allowed to be said. There's some things that shouldn't be allowed to be done. And the common carrier route is an interesting, not the way I would have chosen, but I like the justification of saying.
What I like about it is it's a it's you don't hear about it that often.
Yeah.
So it seems like a novel approach, and it is kind of novel because it's sort of outside the scope of how people are examining this situation.
Yeah.
If more than anything, it just makes me think that Thomas is seriously weighing like the means by which he would feel about certain cases coming through, like, you know, just a straight up or down, like whether or not a social media company is allowed to kick somebody off doesn't seem like it resonates much with him. But like the means by which somebody should be allowed to enter the sandbox is something.
And I think that's the gloriousness from my point of view is they're going to focus on, no, you can't limit people from getting on here just because of who they are, because they think Facebook and Twitter are keeping conservatives off of the media. What I focus on is by making it a common carrier, they also allow for rules and hold responsibility on the carrier.
Yeah.
So that's what I already know, that no matter who you are, you can get on Facebook, you can get on Twitter. What the problem is when you start doing shitty things to people on it, they kick you off. That's what I want to focus on. And I think that they are missing that because they believe there's some conspiracy to keep people off. But
see, I think the gradients in the middle is going to be where any kind of common carrier law becomes questionable. Because, like, think about it, like, in the terms of, like, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Mm-hmm. Like, legally speaking, the legal standard is if I upload a video of a song that I like and onto YouTube and put it up there, then the moment that it's up and live, technically, YouTube has violated the law.
Yes.
Because they've allowed it on there.
Except for now they pre-scan it before it even goes.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, like, you know, when it first became a law, there was a lot more pressure on, if we find it within 30 seconds, then we're going to sue YouTube.
Yeah.
And get on their case about it.
Which is why they search it before you can post it.
And but beyond that, now there's a little bit more leniency to the idea that, like, okay, we found this thing, let's alert YouTube, and they can alert the person, and then the person can take it down or face legal consequences. Yeah. And that way we're not just like spending all our time just take down orders one after the other, where there's a means by which you can come to a come to a middle on this, you know?
YouTube went the other way and said, why would you want to take it down? This guy's making $1,000 a month. Wouldn't you want the $500 a month?
Yeah.
We'll just give you half of what he makes. Great.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot more than you would make if you sued him. Like,
yes. I mean, it's empty pot, basically. Because, by the way, he doesn't make that much. Whatever place he's sending that money, that PayPal account, is getting the money, and it's not actually him. And by the way, they didn't agree to that when CD sales were high. But then once CD sales started dropping, then they're like, wait, can we get some of the money that they are making off that?
Weird.
Yeah, it's strange how that happened. The third story of the week kind of involves our last segment, so I think we should just go ahead and transition over to Sportsball.
Yes, Sportsball. So, first off, this sort of goes into the news and sports. So, because of the Georgia voter, got all choked up there. Because of the voter suppression bill, essentially, that Georgia passed, they found themselves in the crosshairs a bit. A couple companies that are big in Georgia, Delta and Coke, have expressed their opposition to the bill. And Major League Baseball,
after expressing their support of the bill.
Well, and after the bill passed, which is not the time. Like, if you really want to do something about it, you do it before. I imagine Coke would have wanted to get into it before, seeing as, like, part of the bill was, like, not being able to hand people beverages while they're waiting. It's like, yo, come on, get in there, it's a stash here.
We got a new amendment here. Only Coke beverages will be handed out in voting. Really? God damn it, James. All right, Amendment number 17, only Coke beverages.
Coke is now in support. No, the MLB decided to take the action of removing the All-Star Game from Atlanta to a destination unknown at this point. Rumors of Colorado are going right now. But
do they have a new stadium in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are
that's
they
why.
playing at Mercedes? They're not.
No. The Braves got a new stadium.
Oh.
You remember they got Turner Field for the Olympics. So
Yeah,
it was built in like 92. And then 18 years later, they were just like, this place is worn down. We need a new stadium. And Georgia built them one. So
Wait. What year did Oriole Park open?
92.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Same time.
Yeah.
Still going strong.
Maybe it's that humidity down in Atlanta.
Just causing them to break down quicker. This is not unlike situations that we've seen in the past. Though this I feel like has gotten further than the ones before it. There was the bathroom bill in North Carolina and Indiana. They were both very similar bills.
Yeah, and NBA took the All-Star game away.
Yeah.
From North Carolina. I want to say it was Charlotte was supposed to get the.
I think that is true.
The first year that they got their team back, right? Like Charlotte was going to host the All-Star game.
It was a couple years, but I think something like that. And then Indiana was close to losing the NCAA men's basketball tournament because of the same thing with the bathroom bill. They changed the bathroom bill though eventually, right? They eventually caved to the pressure and like gave in.
Yeah, because it stayed there. And I think the NCAA gave a little bit because they realized like I don't think we can offer weight rooms that are essentially like an empty room with a set of free weights and be talking about inequality.
You saw that video too.
Yes.
I enjoyed that one. I just find this so like North Carolina lost $2 billion worth of economic value because of the bathroom bill. Georgia is sort of putting itself in the position like this is kind of the moment before the wave crests, like where you're seeing it coming. And Georgia could decide to, like, honest to God, like it wouldn't. I don't think it would take much. It would be amending the most egregious parts of the bill that managed to pass. And I still think you walk away if you're a Republican whose goal is to keep people from voting.
Yeah.
You still get 75% of what you want. You're just giving up 25% of the stuff that is making you look like idiots. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, there's no mail-in voting in Georgia whatsoever.
There is mail-in voting, but you can only drop the ballot off at a early voting location during the hours of the early voting.
Yes.
So
that's not mail-in voting.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I said you can't mail the ballot.
And like
you have to drop it off.
And like, there were things before, like the problem was that they had provisions before. And some of these things, like an earlier provision had you had to send in a copy of your driver's license. Like you had to photocopy your driver's license, send it in with your ballot.
Yeah.
That became enter your driver's license number or social security number or something like that to prove that you're a Georgia resident. And, to me, that seems like in as much as I don't like any kind of restriction into somebody voting, I think if you're trying to confirm that they have a Georgia driver's license, that's as good as you're going to get. Like,
and they're looking at states that are doing same day voter registration on election day.
Yeah.
And you're like, look at them. We are nowhere near that. You still get the win, but maybe people can hand out water to people waiting.
I mean, generally speaking, I think the question you should have with any voting law is, does this give us as many people to vote as we possibly can without it being like completely ridiculous?
That's
like,
not the goal.
Yeah.
I mean,
not in Georgia, it's not, but I mean, like elsewhere.
That should be the goal.
Yeah, that should be the goal.
And I think the other part of this is like they've had an economic boom because of the entertainment industry coming to Georgia, which they've done a lot of work to do. And that's opening back up again for the first time in 2 years. And
Hollywood, surprisingly, though, very quiet on this. Has not been very at the forefront.
Yeah, weird. Weird how that has worked.
I think it's because they've put so much investment into Georgia, and now they don't want to pull out now that it's...
Well, I mean, The Walking Dead's on their last season, so...
It's way beyond the production that happens in Georgia right now is ridiculous. Yeah. And I think they're really... The studios themselves are kind of saying... We would really rather not make a threat
that we have to follow.
We would rather other things happen before we have to make that threat.
Honestly, though,
Major League Baseball calling the All-Star game though. That's a big swing.
And something else too, the draft. The draft isn't going to be in
right.
In either.
Which,
by the way, the draft
baseball draft not a big deal though. Like
but it's almost like saying this is a year away, and we're pulling that.
Yeah.
So even if you fix this, you don't get that back.
Yeah.
Maybe try and fix it before the next big thing comes up.
Right.
Which again is flexing something that doesn't matter, which is what Hollywood could do right now because no one's in. Maybe they are back in production in Georgia. Cause,
there's a little bit of production going on.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens here. I applaud baseball for doing what they can, I guess, to help. I do feel bad for people in Georgia because, at a certain point, it's not your fault that your government is awful. Not, to a person, it's not their fault. Like, they
all have pitchforks, right? Like, saying.
I mean, there's a, if you're a,
you can buy guns real easy there, can't you?
If you're a Democrat who if you're a Democrat who likes baseball, you just got punished in Georgia for no good reason,
But to the Republicans in Georgia, I say just take the L, make it better for you in the long term.
Yeah.
And that's not something I could say about the Orioles this past weekend.
They didn't take an L this past week.
Did not take an L.
Wasn't until today that they decided to take that L. Orioles sweep the Red Sox to start off the season. It was wonderful. Oriole fans got way too excited, way too quick.
Yeah.
It's not good for us. Not good for
Tomorrow
our little
morning,
hearts.
I do not want to be listening to Baltimore Sports Radio. Fire everybody. Fire the coach. We don't need any of them.
What has Michael Eyes done in the last 24 hours to make us better? I'm just excited. We talked about the Fangraphs chances of making the playoffs. Orioles odds improved to 0.01.
Ooh.
So we got that going for us. Orioles fans are having fun with it too. I think Masson put up a thing that said that put up 3 and 0.0 to make a reference to the record in the 0.0, which I thought was particularly good.
Oh, that's good for them.
This team ain't gonna win a lot this season, but any moments of if the only times we win were against the Red Sox and the Yankees, I feel like my season would be a lot better. I don't care as much when we lose the Royals or the Tigers or.
Well, I just feel like
if they could only win the games I personally go to and against the Yankees and the Red Sox, that's pretty good.
I think I called.
It's still 50-something wins.
I called before the season 500 season.
Yeah,
and that's looking like more and more of a smart prediction. Maybe we'll go 500. Let's see how this series goes, and then we'll see how that works out. I think in the end, it's far more likely that Boston is not as good as we thought they were than Baltimore is this miracle team who's going to win 162 games this season. So,
clearly that's
161 and 1 now. Yeah.
And then the final thing, we'll make this quick. Francisco Lindor signed a huge extension with the Mets, $341 million over 10 years. And if for whatever reason that number, $341 million, sounds familiar, it's because it's exactly $1 million more than Fernando Tatis Jr.'s massive contract extension that happened earlier this offseason.
I dream of being this petty.
So what's really funny is the Mets owner, the new owner, Steve Cohen, is the richest owner in baseball by
far.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Feel free to Google the relative wealth of MLB owners, and you'll see
he's on my list. He's on the guillotine list. That's how rich he is.
Do you ever see the things where it's just some stat that America just trounces everybody, like nuclear warheads?
Yes.
And it's just America has this thing that goes all the way to the hundreds, and then it's the next country is 12.
Yeah.
It's that's sort of what it looks like with Steve Cohen's net wealth.
And everybody else.
Yeah.
Not in the world, but in the MLB. Yeah.
In the MLB. So he made an offer for 10 years, $320, and said, "That's it. That's our final offer." And then I think Lindor was just "Pay me one more than Tatis, and I'm there." just get it $1 million over Tatis, and I'm there. And he's just fine. What does it matter?
Yeah, for him, really.
Another $700,000 a year for the next. So Congratulations to Lindor for his extension. I'd love that. The bettiness is so great. It's kind of like the Palm Springs, like when they beat the record by 69 cents for the highest sale ever in Sundance history.
Yeah,
because you know they get to the point where it's just like the agent or the sales agent like comes back to the Palm Springs people and they're just like,
this is where we are.
We're tied. They're not gonna go over the biggest deal ever. So you're there. You're tied for the biggest deal ever. It's just like, tell them to add 69 cents. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just go back and say, what does it matter? What does 69 cents matter? And just, they did it.
Yep.
That's it. Now
And
they
we
have the biggest
we
sale.
have the best one. And
It's like all those times where you have to make a nominal offer. Like, I would like to buy your car for $1 American.
This actually reminded me.
There's one that doesn't work, sure.
This conversation reminded me that the 140th richest man in the world,
Yeah.
who is the richest man in the Czech Republic, died this week as well. Do you want to take a guess at how he died? He was 56.
Trying to make more money than $339.
No. 139. 140. He's the 140th man, richest man. If I tell you it involved a helicopter, what would you think?
Gold?
Okay, so it's a good guess. Or it could just be
Too much gold weighed down the hill.
Yeah, moving around because he took a helicopter between his house and his mailbox, so he it just was in it too often. Rule of big numbers, but he was
To the front, Jeeves.
he was heliskiing, which is where you want pure snow that hasn't been touched by anyone else. So they helicopter you up to the top of a mountain, and then you jump out onto the slope. And I don't want to make fun of somebody dying, but you don't see poor people dying from heliskiing. That's all I'm saying. You don't. Gunfire? Starvation? Yes.
You know, it's true. Of all the people I've known who died of heliskiing.
All billionaires?
All billionaires.
All in the top 500 richest people in the world?
I mean, I'm struggling to put together the list, but I'm pretty sure they were all pretty rich.
Yes. Yeah. So all I'm saying is, Cohen, don't go heliskiing. That's probably not a good look for you. But
Also, Cohen, if you're looking to divvy up a little bit of extras, you know, like if it's an extra 21 million, ain't that big of a deal. I got some pitches for you. Is all I'm saying.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'll take 69 cents more than Joe Rogan got on Spotify. Just 69 cents.
You know where you can send that?
Oh, sure. Where's that?
OhTheAnthem.com, CoreyOhTheAnthem.com, OhTheAnthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more on me on my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and add LegendsCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
New video!
It's happening. It's happening. Trust me. It's happening.
I feel like
I don't feel like I should say anything else until it's out. Because
there are people who have followed a religion for like 4 end of the worlds.
Yeah.
And then the guy comes back and he's like, listen, I did the math. I was wrong.
It's next weekend.
It's actually next week. And then next week comes and they're like, the fuck, dude? And he's like, okay, so I forgot there's some extra commas I didn't take into account, but 3 weeks from now.
Anybody else hate decimal points?
So yeah, so what do you got cooking? What's going on?
No, it's coming. I just it was a weird week. All right, that's it.
Oh, is that
Yeah, that's all I got right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I wasn't even ready. I didn't even take Derek Chauvin off my picture. So you can find more of me at Robert and Cheek on all your social networks. Check out my YouTube channel. I have stuff up there like reviews and unboxings and stuff. And if you really want to see me or hang out with me, the best place you can do that is on Call of Duty Cold War, Black Ops Cold War. Yeah, just find me on there. Anku Kuryis, ANKOUKERYS. That's how you find me. But you can also find more at robertandcheek.com, where you can find links to everything I'm doing, including the books, which are available on Amazon.
Buy those books.
And I have been working on revamps of the books. Just waiting for somebody who do a review and give me the edits for that. I'm sure that's coming right after the videos. It's fine.
I hear you.
So before you go out, I just wanted to say also, there is one story of the week that we didn't get to, but I do want to touch on it because I just think it's cool as shit. Hang on, let me find
the picture.
The picture of it.
Real quick, while you're doing that,
yes.
I would like to make mention of the comment on here from
Squasher. I saw it.
Guy on the left looks so attractive.
Wait, are we going to mention what Mosquito Man said after that?
Actually, no. Yeah. I don't know who Mosquito Man is, though.
Do you know who Ball Squasher is?
No, but I can agree with his general tone.
I agree with Mosquito Man. Mosquito Maine. Actually, no. So here is the story of my story of the week you should check out. There's a fucking helicopter on Mars right now. What you see is the helicopter from the Perseverance rover was dropped out of the belly. It's going to be flying around Mars. One of the big problems with Mars is there's only certain places we can put human settlements because there's only water in certain places, which actually may not be true, which is also mind-blowing. But nonetheless, by having helicopters, we'd be able to move people and things around Mars in places we couldn't. You can't have two human settlements too far apart because if something goes wrong, you can't get the people out in an emergency. In this way, by using helicopters, you could. And the helicopter blade design is based on, isn't purely, but is based on the theory produced by Leonardo da Vinci's first helicopter design, which is crazy. And you're thinking like, well, it's a helicopter. The air on Mars is like 1/8 the thickness of the air on Earth. And there's very little oxygen, so it's like a whole different makeup. And they're going to fly a goddamn helicopter. And 3 years ago, we used a rocket sky crane to land a thing on Mars. And everybody was like, oh, my God, that's amazing. And this week I said, did you hear about Mars? And you're like, oh, I heard there was like something happened up there. Like, this is why we land on the moon July 11th, 1969. And then 2 missions later, people were like, meh, until the thing blows up. And then we're like, oh, Apollo 13. And then the moon program ends 2 missions later because people are just like, who cares about the moon? This is why. Because Americans have a short attention span, and we just need a virus to wipe out half humanity, and that would be super helpful.
Well, just like NASA, I think we did good here today.
Wait, did you just give NASA a compliment?
I know, it hurts me inside.
Oh, we'll have to talk about the trains next time, and how Corey's opinions on trains is about to be revolutionized.
No, probably won't.
But we've done something. I don't know if it's good. As always, you're listening to the O the Anthem podcast, part of the O the Anthem digital network. For Corey and no producer today, I'm the producer. This is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
I will never concede on Amtrak. I will never concede.
You are going to be sitting stodgy in your first-class cabin on the way to Vegas like, fuck trains, man. I hate trains.
Maglev or bust.